Chapter 286. The other tournament. Shu Sanqi leapt forward quickly and pressed his shield forward. He didn't unleash a soul skill, but instead used his dense soul power and physical strength to knock into Wang Chengxi. He was very sudden, such that Wang Chengxi was unprepared. Her sword was lifted into the air as she was pushed. From the looks of it, she was about to be struck by the shield. Wang Chengxi reached her left hand forward. She grabbed her sword with two hands now and pressed it against the shield. She tapped into the forward momentum of the shield to lift her body into the air. Her movements were very elegant. As she exerted strength with her hands, she leapt into the air. At the same time as she passed Shu Sanqi, she flexibly turned her body in reverse direction. The sword light from her sword started to shine very brightly. The sharp sword aura engulfed Shu Sanqi's body from the back. She pressed her sword, leaping into the air and launching a counterattack. It was an eye-opener. Shu Sanqi turned from the active to the passive party. However, he was very experienced and had seen many types of situations before. He didn't panic at all. Wang Chengxi saw things blurring in front of her before Shu Sanqi miraculously used his shield to block his back. All the sword lights were deflected away, and none of them struck him. Those who were watching the fight intently noticed that Shu Sanqi's shield turned along with Wang Chengxi as she leapt into the air, even though he hadn't turned himself. However, it appeared very abrupt because his shield was scooped up from the bottom. Wang Chengxi's sword light struck nothing again. However, her smile seemed to become wider. Her sword started to shine very brightly, and a layer of icy blue started to engulf Shu Sanqi, coming from the third light ring that lit up on the sword. The icy blue glow quickly engulfed Shu Sanqi. At the same time, a black glow started to spread from the shield of the Swanwu turtle. It spread out like exhaust gas, dispelling the icy blue glow. Wang Chengxi was also engulfed by this exhaust gas. It was Shu Sanqi's first soul skill, mysterious underworld quake. The difference this soul skill had from the past was that it now seemed to have its own intelligence. The strongest quake wasn't unleashed at the first moment, but covered Wang Chengxi's body instantly. It was only after this that the immense force of the quake was unleashed. Wang Chengxi was stunned. She suddenly felt very restrained fighting against Shu Sanqi. Her outstanding fighting experience didn't seem to be useful here. Even her most confident skill had been seen through by her opponent. Shu Sanqi gave her a lot of pressure as he unleashed his soul skill. The fifth soul ring on her sword suddenly lit up. Wang Chengxi grabbed her sword with both hands, and her body started to squirm. She was even calling out softly, painful. However, who knew that Shu Sanqi wasn't moved at all? The immense force from his mysterious underworld quake was instantly unleashed. Not only that, but a pitch black glow shone from his body. The surface area of his shield doubled, and the strength of the mysterious underworld quake suddenly soared. 1,000-year soul skill, mysterious underworld force. A light flashed from Wang Chengxi's hand. It was destroyed as a tremendous vibration struck her. Her fifth soul ring, which was on the sword, seemed to have been completely destroyed, and she was flung away by the strong quaking force. The lights on her sword suddenly turned much dimmer. Shu Sanqi didn't follow up his attack. However, Wang Chengxi could hear him muttering, screaming in such pain, "But your soul ring is still bright." That was too hypocritical. A pale glow was released from Wang Chengxi's body, which she used to resist the quaking force. As she supported her body with her right hand, she bounced straight back up. "You really don't know how to take care of girls." A whining voice sounded out. Shu Sanqi was displeased as he said, "What do you mean? I don't know how to take care of girls. I'm only protecting myself. Even if I want to take care of girls, I'll need to prioritize my own life first. Am I right? Beauty, are you still attacking? If you aren't, you can leave the stage. I don't want you to complain that I'm not taking good care of you." Wang Chengxi pursed her small lips and replied, "You haven't won. If I leave just like this, how can I count to my sect? Let's go again." As she spoke, she burst towards Shu Sanqi again. This time, she seemed even more elegant, and was also much faster. Her long, black hair danced with the wind. Shu Sanqi didn't rush forward. He actually retreated one step, then lunged forward. There was a smile on his face. He was indeed very fond of ladies. However, they would be in trouble if they thought that he was brainless and tried to harm him. Wang Chengxi suddenly leapt into the air when she was 5 meters away from Shu Sanqi. She made a turn in the air and stabbed out towards him, both hands on her sword. Her long swaying hair followed the movements of her body, appearing like a full, black moon. Shu Sanqi didn't retreat or advance. He stood where he was and focused his gaze on Wang Chengxi's body. Her fifth soul ring lit up again, and the blinding lights from her sword were very clear. A black sword light was directly separated from her iron sword. It was completely black, but it released an intense silver light. Before the sword was even unleashed, its aura was already cracking the air with its sharpness. At the same time, Wang Chengxi's black hair started to transform. It grew longer, and turned into black snakes that whipped towards Shu Sanqi. Not only this, but she also lifted her head suddenly, giving Shu Sanqi a shock. While she had appeared very gentle and ravishing earlier, she was now very pale. Two fangs poked out from her mouth, and her eyes were completely white. Two streaks of pale white light instantly shot from them towards Shu Sanqi. The spectators couldn't see these two streaks of light clearly, as they were masked by the snakes. They could only see Shu Sanqi's body being engulfed by countless snakes. Sword light, snakes, white lights. 3 different attacks were unleashed at the same time. Shu Sanqi was astonished as he shouted, "Twin martial souls?" At this point, the white lights from Wang Chengxi's eyes had already shut towards him. Shu Sanqi squatted down and used his shield to protect his entire body. He allowed the 2 streaks of white light to hit his shield. Suddenly, he felt his shield becoming heavier, as it had turned into a massive rock. Following this, the countless snakes started to converge towards him from all directions. The sword lights were already in front of him too. Beneath the stage, everyone from the Tang Sect couldn't help but get nervous. Wang Donggo exclaimed at almost the same time as Shu Sanqi, "Twin martial souls?" Huo Yua shook his head, and his expression didn't really change. Just when everyone thought Shu Sanqi was in deep trouble, something weird happened. The air distorted, and suddenly Shu Sanqi was displaced from his position, and Wang Chengxi replaced him in his original position. None of her attacks managed to strike him. It was his 4th soul skill, the mysterious underworld displacement. It was this skill that had created several miracles in the last tournament. Shu Sanqi wasn't merciful anymore. A ball of black light was unleashed from his shield, a snake on its surface. White light shot out from its blood-red eyes, which reconverted his shield back to its original state. Following this, his shield turned into projections in the air. The snakes that came towards Shu Sanqi were once again forced away by these projections. Shu Sanqi followed his shield. His speed soared as he burst forward. He held the main body of his shield and was about to ram into Wang Chengxi. At this point, there were 5 more soul rings on Wang Chengxi's body. 2 were yellow, 2 were purple, and the last one was black. The 2 purple soul rings were still shining brightly. As her snakes continued to burst forward, her body also turned soft like cotton. Her skin was even replaced by a layer of scales. She retreated quickly. Her 5th soul ring also lit up again at the same time. A pale white color covered her eyes once again. Medusa. This was Wang Chengxi's stronger martial soul. Her 5th soul skill was called Medusa's Gaze. It was a pity that she was facing Shu Sanqi. His martial soul wasn't just simply his shield of the Swanwu turtle. His shield had undergone a mutation. The Swanwu was a combination of a turtle and a snake, and it was the most outstanding water-type martial soul. Her Medusa's Gaze was completely curbed by the aura of his shield. As long as it didn't directly strike Shu Sanqi, it was impossible for her to have any effect on him. Her cultivation was also inferior to his, and you wouldn't turn to stone just because she gazed at him. Trying to escape? Shu Sanqi snorted coldly. The shield projections in the air started to converge. If the Heavenly Armor Sect team hadn't left, they would have been embarrassed by how Shu Sanqi used his shield. The shield walls formed by Shu Sanqi's shield of the Swanwu turtle turned into a cage under his control, and Wang Chengxi was trapped within. 2 streaks of blood-red light shot out from the snake's eyes on the surface of his shield. As they struck Wang Chengxi's Medusa's Gaze, they destroyed it. He was also moving forward again at this point. Wang Chengxi's body jerked back as she retracted all her snakes, but she then burst forward again and collided head-on with him. It was a pity that her abilities were still far from his. Her snakes were destroyed, and she was completely trapped by Shu Sanqi. She groaned in discontent. He watched Wang Chengxi from close range and used his shield to block off her Medusa's Gaze. Shu Sanqi shook his head in loathing and said, "You look really good, but why do you have to make yourself appear so disgusting? It's a pity. I almost thought that you had twin martial souls. It seems like that isn't the case. You are quite smart, but it's a pity that you met me. Don't worry, I take good care of ladies. Concede defeat now." "No." Wang Changxi looked at Shu Sanqi stubbornly. She used all her soul power and struggled to escape. Shu Sanqi was a little helpless as he shook his head. Black lights were released again. His mysterious underworld quake. This time, his mysterious underworld quake was unleashed as his shield was in its shield wall state. The quake was directed inwards instead of out. By the time Shu Sanqi withdrew, Wang Changxi had already regained her original appearance as she collapsed softly to the ground. Shu Sanqi nodded his head in satisfaction and muttered to himself, "That's right. You look much better now. You should thank me." The referee appeared gloomy as he rushed over and heard his words. Are all young people nowadays so shameless? Shu Sanqi turned around in a very showy manner. He extended 2 fingers towards the others in the waiting area to signal his victory. After that, he suavely turned to his opponents and shouted, "Next." The referee couldn't stand him anymore and said furiously, "Why are you shouting? Do you think you are me? You are even carrying a speaker-type soul tool. Let me tell you. No one's voice except mine can be heard within this protective barrier. Shu Sanqi recalled what he had said to Jiang Nanan and was stunned. When he was just about to turn around, 2 people from the Unrivaled Sect hurried over and carried Wang Changxi away. She wasn't hurt, but she was unconscious after suffering his quake. It was unlikely that she would wake up anytime soon. Although Shu Sanqi loved to show himself off, it hadn't been an easy fight for him, given that he had to conceal his true abilities. Wang Changxi's explosive abilities had put a lot of pressure on him. Wang Donga smiled as she said, "Oh, he's finally won. Third senior is impressive." Huo Yuao laughed. Third senior can't be stopped by this small wave. However, that lady was quite scheming. Wang Donga replied, "She doesn't seem to possess twin martial souls. Otherwise, how could she bear to promote her soul rings to the same level for both martial souls? That wouldn't be very good for her future development." Huo Yuao answered, "Of course she doesn't have twin martial souls. They aren't that common." Jiang Nanan rolled her eyes and said, "Aren't that common? There are already 3 of you who have twin martial souls among the 7 of us." Huo Yuao chuckled. "That's because we are from Shrek. Fourth senior, third senior fought very steadily. Don't put him in a difficult spot later." Jiang Nanan let a cold smile onto her face and replied, "I don't believe I can't change his bad habit." Huo Yuao and Wang Donga looked at each other and started to pray for Shu Sanqi in their hearts. The second competing member of the Unrivaled Sect quickly entered the stage. It was a young man this time, who wore a furious look on his face. When he entered the stage, he immediately interrogated Shu Sanqi. "What did you do to our senior?" Shu Sanqi looked at him sincerely. "To prevent her from harming herself, I let her sleep. Don't worry, she'll wake up within a day." The young man was stunned and said, "A day? What about our team round? She's our team leader. Without her, we'll." Shu Sanqi was shocked. "Brother, are you acting in front of me? Acting? What nonsense. I'll fight it out with you." The young man reacted quickly and burst towards Shu Sanqi. It was a pity that he was stopped by the referee in the next moment. The referee righteously said, "Although I detest him too, you'll still need to observe the rules. Stay back." Shu Sanqi wasn't going to be merciful on this young man. There were only ladies, beauties, and small animals in his heart. There wasn't such a thing as guys. As long as they weren't his close friends, they were automatically categorized as small animals. He wouldn't be merciful to them. After Wang Changxi's defeat, this young man, who was a 4-ring soul ancestor, lasted less than 2 minutes before he also lost. Shu Sanqi's fighting style was very simple. There weren't too many flowery tricks, but he managed to use his shield exaltedly, and his soul skills flexibly. To others, he used one soul skill as if he were using 3. Everyone could tell that he hadn't given his all yet. However, he conceded defeat after he finished his second fight. He exited the stage and his teammate took over for him. The Unrivaled Sect's prowess seemed to have mainly come from Wang Changxi. After her defeat, it was smooth sailing for the Tang Sect. There wasn't any real resistance for them. As for the team round, it was an overwhelming victory for them as well. Among the 7 of them, Hikato, Huo Yuao, and Wang Donga didn't even make a move in the team round. Shu Sanqi led Jiang Nanan, Xia Xiao, and Nana as they settled the fight in the team round. The Tang Sect advanced, and the Unrivaled Sect was eliminated. Wang Changxi's physical body was quite strong, and she woke up after the team round ended. However, there wasn't any hint of a smile on the face. From the looks of it, she wasn't any less furious than Nan Kyukayu, who had lost to the Tang Sect in the previous round. Nan Kyukayu had followed the Tang Sect over to the tournament venue today. However, she remained in the resting area. She hadn't registered as a member of the Tang Sect, and thus she couldn't compete. However, she was much more honest now. She sat beside Jingxian and shot clownish looks at everyone from the Tang Sect from time to time. Over the past few days, Nan Kyukayu had spent time with Jingxian and Ji Juigan. Her hatred had shifted. The Tang Sect didn't beat any strong opponents. After the next round, they would be in the round robin stage. After their fight ended, they didn't stay in the resting area. Huo Yuao and the rest directly returned to their hotel to rest, where they also told Bei Bei about their victory. Bei Bei was still in a bad condition. His condition didn't seem to have improved over the past 2 days. His injury couldn't be healed through healing type soul masters. His body was invaded by an evil aura, so he could only use his own soul power to dispel the evil aura. At the same time, he needed to recover his vital energy. Everyone returned to their rooms to rest, while Nana left the hotel silently, continuing the mission that Huo Yuao had delegated to her. Huo Yuao and Wang Donga returned to their room and started to cultivate. Huo Yuao made full use of this time to absorb the origin energy in his body. It was only after night fell that a knock sounded at their door. Wang Donga was jolted awake by the sounds of knocking on the door. "Who is it?" Wang Donga asked. "It's me." Nana's voice came back quietly. Wang Donga crawled out of the bed and walked towards the door before opening it. Nana was apologetic as she said, "Ms. Donga, sorry for disturbing the both of you at such a late time. I'm really sorry." Huo Yuao's voice rose. "Donga, let her in." Wang Donga brought Nana into the room. Huo Yuao had already ended his cultivation, and he was sitting by his bedside. His lower limbs still couldn't move. Even when he was seated, he could only rely on his right hand to shift himself. At this point, he grabbed onto the bed and tried to turn around. "Was there any progress?" Huo Yuao asked Nana. She replied, "Master, things aren't going too well. I've contacted some of the black market sellers over these few days. They aren't that willing to sell to us. They claim that their production is too little and the metals that we want are too precious." Huo Yuao furrowed his brow and asked, "Is it because of money, or some other reason?" Nana said, "I asked, and heard that they are exploiting this tournament to organize an underground tournament. The rewards of this tournament are very substantial. As rare metals are a very important hard currency in the underground world, they are being used as stakes. It will be very difficult for us to buy any of them." Huo Yuao was doubtful. They are organizing their own tournament even as they bet. Isn't the Continental Elite Youth Soul Master tournament enough for them? Nana said, "Master, there are some things you don't know. The Sun Moon Empire has a very strict law that prohibits anyone from betting on this tournament. No one is allowed, no matter whether it's on the surface or in the black market. Otherwise, punishment will be meted out." Huo Yuao was stunned and asked, "Why is this so?" "I recalled that you could do so in the Douluo Empire." Nana replied, "I heard that the current Prince Regent detests gambling. That's why the underground black market has no choice but to organize its own tournament." Huo Yuao said, "Where do they find people to compete if everyone's in the legal tournament? Without sufficient competitors, the tournament will be meaningless." Nana said, "They aren't organizing a fighting tournament, but one on creating soul tools. This is the specialty of Radiant City. It doesn't happen in other empires. The only requirement is that the competitors have to be under 30. Soul engineers of any class can compete. The entire tournament is purely about elimination. The rules of every round seem to be different." Huo Yuao thought of something and asked, "Can you tell me what this tournament is like? Also, what are the rewards and gambling system with regards to this underground tournament?" Nana had been living in Radiant City since her youth and was very familiar with this place. She was also very good at obtaining such news. She thoroughly recounted the details of the tournament to Huo Yuao. The 3 biggest black markets had decided to organize their own tournament and exploit the opportunity of the Continental Elite Youth Soul Master tournament to earn profits without angering Shu Tianran. To make it sound nice, they claimed that they were furthering the development of soul tools in the Sun Moon Empire. The tournament wasn't very strict. The only 2 requirements were that the soul engineers had to be under 30, and they had to create class 4 soul tools in the qualifiers. If they passed, they could advance to the next round, where they could truly compete. One could bet on the qualifiers. The bet was very simple, the number of people who could pass the qualifiers. One could bet on an absolute number, or whether it would be an odd or even number of people who qualified. The returns were a few multiples, and varied depending on the selections. The qualifiers were being held right now. Creating soul tools wasn't as quick as a fight, so the soul engineers were given 3 days for the first round. The future rounds in the tournament would also be eliminated. would also be elimination rounds, but the topic for each round would change. The 3 black markets even specially invited a member of the Imperial family, a powerful Class 9 Soul Engineer, to be the chief referee. 12 Class 7 and above Soul Engineers were also chosen to be the referee committee in this tournament, so as to ensure the fairness of the tournament and betting system. The things they had to do were simple. They wanted to draw in the ordinary citizens, nobles, and wealthy individuals who wanted to gamble by exploiting the hype of the Continental Elite Youth Soul Master Tournament. Their aim was to make as much profit as possible. So far, they had been very successful in this aspect. More than 100,000 people had been in their tournament already, and the amount of money involved was undoubtedly very great. To draw sufficient numbers of outstanding Soul Engineers to compete, the rewards of the tournament were all rare medals. From the first round, those who qualified for the next round would be rewarded. This even applied to the qualifiers. As the rounds progressed, the rewards would increase. Soul Engineers could ignore money, but they had to have rare medals. They could create soul tools to earn money, but rare medals might not be available even if one had money. This was especially true in this tournament, since the rare medals were all being used as rewards for the competitors. There was even competition between the 3 black markets. That was why there were 3 competing venues for the tournament. The winners in each venue would compete against one another. When that happened, the wager between the 3 black markets would also involve rare medals. All this was why Nana couldn't obtain any rare medals, even though she was willing to offer a high price. After listening to Nana, who you sank deep into thought, he asked, Nana, are there any requirements to register for this tournament? Nana shook her head and said, it's very simple. One cannot be above 30 years old, and must be confident in competing in the qualifiers. Finally, there's a registration fee of 100 gold soul coins. Wang Donga's expression changed, and she said, don't tell me you're thinking of competing. No, it's too dangerous. This is Radiant City. There are also many powerful soul engineers there. Who smiled and said, wouldn't it be a pity if I don't compete since the rewards are so good? Don't worry, I won't take any risks. I'm sure it's safe since they dare to organize such a tournament. The competitors are all soul engineers, the group of people with the greatest authority in the Sun Moon Empire. If they dare to do anything in the tournament, will the soul engineers tolerate such behavior? Definitely not. That's why we don't have to worry about the safety aspect. Furthermore, I won't compete using my true identity. Your disguise and my imitation will make it easy for me to scam everyone, won't it? Wang Donga furrowed her brow. But we still have the tournament. Yuao said, the underground tournament is mainly held at night. It won't affect anything. Donga, I must compete in this tournament for the development of the sect. Gambling is a good opportunity for us, but I won't be assured if I'm placing a bet on someone else. I'm a soul engineer, and this is a good opportunity to test my abilities. At the same time, I can learn a lot of things from others in the same line. I'll get second senior to follow me. He paused for a moment and turned very serious. Donga, the official tournament will help to build the Tang Sect's reputation, while the underground tournament will help to build the Tang Sect's future. They are both important. Wang Donga thought for a moment before saying, you can go if you want, but on 2 conditions. First, you must seek eldest senior's approval. Second, I must follow you. However, are you really going to compete? Hasn't it begun already? Yuao said. Nana mentioned that there's still one day left in the qualifiers. It's not too late. I agree to your conditions. Let's go and find eldest senior before registering for this tournament. At such a time, he was very quick and decisive. Purchasing rare medals was one of his most important goals for coming here. It took on a significant meaning for the Tang Sect's future development and his own improvement in his soul engineering abilities. Yuao asked Wang Donga to push into Hikaitu's room before they went to Bei's room. An hour later, the sky had already turned dark. Perhaps everyone's energy was depleted because of the tournament in the day, but the night seemed very quiet. There were very few people roaming the streets, and most people had already retired to bed. At a street corner around 300 meters from the Mingyue Hotel, the light seemed to distort at a pitch black corner. Following this, 4 figures surfaced. Yuao was still in his wheelchair, but his wheelchair was covered by a black cloth, and his appearance had changed greatly. Compared to before, he was much more handsome, and there were many changes to small details. Even if there were familiar faces around him, they wouldn't be able to recognize him unless they could deduce his identity using the wheelchair he was in. Wang Donga was still dressed like a man. Her appearance was very cold and tough, and she also looked much more ordinary. On the whole, she seemed like an extremely normal and aloof young man. The greatest change in Hikaitu was his hair. He was wearing a brown wig that helped to cover his bright and shiny bald head. His wig reached his shoulders, and there was a black mask on his face. His complexion was also paler. Along with a thick, black robe, he seemed very mysterious. Nana's transformation was the simplest. She put on makeup to look like a maid. Her simple transformation made her look very pitiful. She stood beside Yuao's wheelchair. Her deference towards him didn't need to be faked. Hikaitu was impressed. Junior, your imitation is getting stronger and stronger. We were completely unrecognizable just now as we left the hotel. No one will suspect us. Yuao smiled and said, second senior, let's refer to ourselves differently from now on. I'm in a wheelchair, so I'll have no choice but to take advantage of all of you. We are brothers now, and I'll call you big brother. You can call me second brother. Donga and Nana are my servants. They'll call me master. I'll call the 2 of them Little Dong and Little Na. Wang Donga snapped and said, you are intentionally taking advantage of us. Yuao chortled. No, isn't that just logical? Call me master. Wang Donga pursed her lips as she saw his sly look. She snorted, and her voice turned very manly as she said softly, Master. Yuao chuckled. Be more natural. Come on, one more time. You. Wang Donga lifted her hands, as if she wanted to do something. However, she couldn't bear to lay her hands on him seeing that he was in a wheelchair. She turned her head and ignored him. Let's go. It isn't early anymore. Let's follow the plan. Wang Donga was pushing his wheelchair while Nana followed to one side. Hikaitu walked on the other. The 4 of them proceeded towards the center of the city as they took advantage of the darkness. There was an underground world everywhere. Whether it was a heavenly soul, Berlin, Douluo, or Sun Moon Empire, it was all the same. There were many types of underground worlds. The lowest level involved sex, murder, and human trafficking. The higher class ones involved arms trafficking, underground political trades, and the sale of rare resources. Whether it was the lowest level underground worlds or the higher class ones, they were all controlled by powerful figures. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any way for them to survive. In Radiant City's underground world, there were 3 main organizations. They were the Dusk Water Alliance, the Common Alliance, and the Alto Chamber of Commerce. The Common Alliance controlled the sex industry in Radiant City, and was probably the shallowest underground power. The Alto Chamber of Commerce controlled assassin and thieves associations, as well as some evil powers. They made a living by collecting protection fees and committing murders and theft, as well as through other illegal means. The Dusk Water Alliance was more advanced. They sold the most profitable medicines and arms, and trafficked people. The Common Alliance and Alto Chamber of Commerce shared a very close relationship, teaming up together to oppose the Dusk Water Alliance. However, they weren't as well backed as the Dusk Water Alliance. They weren't very interactive either, and only ensured a peaceful working relationship through agreements between their backers. All 3 underground organizations were involved in the sale of rare metals. After all, it was a very profitable trade. As long as they were given access to mining channels, they could obtain rare metals at a low cost. However, these rare metals were in very high demand, and helped them make the most profits. For example, there was a rare metal called soul forging silver. It could fuse with any type of metal and increase its affinity towards a soul master's soul power. At the same time, it increased the tensile strength and hardness of the metals it was fused with. It was used in almost all advanced soul tools. It was only produced in the Sun Moon Empire, and was produced in average quantities. Around 500 gold soul coins were needed to mine 1 kilo of it, but on the market, it was worth around 100 gold soul coins per 100 grams. This was a 200% profit if it was sold. How could anyone not go crazy over it? Even with the great exploitation of the mining channels, the profits were still very great. The profits that could be reaped from soul forging silver were only considered average among rare metals. The prices of rarer metals were even more unbelievable. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.